Come, my babies. Come, my baby. You're my sugar pie. You're my butterfly, not my sugar pie. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and Final Girl, obviously. Maybe let's get these out of the way a little bit. I am back today with an updated video for my Final Girl rankings. I did this video, I don't know, it must have been over a year ago, at least a year ago, if not a little bit more, where I ranked all of the Final Girl feature films from my least favorite to my favorite, but that of course was only when Series 1 and 2 were out, and now Series 3 has joined the party, and so we need to re-rank everything. So let's lay down a few caveats, ground rules, whatever. There's a few things that you need to know. Number one, I have played all of the feature films. I have played most of them multiple times. The only ones I haven't played multiple times are The Hunter, The Eyeless, and Razorface. Everybody else I have played numerous times. I will be ranking all 15 feature films from Series 1, 2, and 3, as well as the special feature film, which was Krampus, okay? So I think that means there's 16 that I'm going to be ranking. I will be starting from my least favorite and I will be going to my favorite. This is my ranking. I know it's stupid that I have to always say that, but I do, and I'm specifically saying it now because I know for a fact my ranking is so different than a lot of people's. Most of the feature films that tend to be people's absolute favorites, for some reason, tend to be my least favorite. I am a theme-based person, so it goes theme first, then gameplay, then experience, and all of that stuff. But I'm ranking based on theme. I'm ranking based on what I enjoy, and some of these themes just don't click as well with me. You'll notice, also prefer like mid to light complexity in my Final Girl game in terms of like rule set. So some of the super complex sets, they don't always hit for me. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So I'll just say that. If you're wondering, because I know some people are going to say it, don't you work for Van Ryder Games? I am no longer a full-time or part-time employee with Van Ryder Games, but I am on contract with them, and I still do like podcast and streaming and all of that stuff. But everybody knows Final Girl, it's my favorite game. I've loved it since before I worked for the company. I love it. It's my most played game. And that's the other thing. I have played this game a billion times, okay? I know this game very well. I myself am also a Final Girl. And I don't know if it's up on the Van Ryder Games website yet or not, but you can get my promo card if you're interested. Okay, are there any other caveats? Oh, at the end, I will rank the series as well and which ones I like the best to the least. Oh, and that's the final caveat. I enjoy playing every single feature film. There is not a feature film that they're all laid out in front of me. There is not a feature film that I will not play. There's nothing. I have played all of the feature films. I have mixed and matched everything. There are some killers that I love more than their locations, and that might be why, like, and vice versa, some locations I love more than kill. Like, I love everything. So if you're like, you hate this, no, I don't. I love everything. Just know that. Anyways, so we're going to do the rankings of the feature films. We are going to do the rankings of the actual series 1, 2, and 3. And there have been people asking if I'm going to do any other kinds of rankings, like maybe ranking my favorite killers, like all of that stuff. And I might do that eventually, but that's not going to happen in this video. All right? Are we good? We're good? I say, let's freaking get into it. And I'm just going to push the boxes out of the way. I'm going to start with 16 and work my way down to number 1. I have them all laid out in front of me from my least favorite to my favorite. And if this is anything like the last time I did it, this could change in real time because this was really hard to do. Here we go. My number 16 should be no surprise to anyone because it was my number 16, or my last pick in the last video that I did, my number 10, and that is going to be Slaughter in the Groves with the Inkinyamba. Now, the Inkinyamba, I will say, was my nemesis for a very long time, since the very beginning. And then this past year, in 2024, I defeated him, and it was glorious, and it was awesome. But this feature film is just really hard, really punishing, and I love a challenge, but it's to the point where it's almost a little bit too punishing and can be frustrating sometimes. So this is just not one that I reach for all the time. However, when I do mix and match and when I do go through the feature films and I play this, I still have a great time. So the Slaughter in the Groves, it has the Inkinyamba as your killer and the Sacred Groves as your location. The big thing with this one and why it's so difficult is because you are dealing with things like Divine Wrath, which is kind of in Killer Wrath, both of those things, which are increasing, which are making your gameplay harder and harder and harder and harder. And the Inkinyamba is just really difficult to defeat. With all of that being said, it's just my least favorite one. And I don't really have anything else to say about it, but it's still fun. It's still fun. And if you're like, oh, can I watch your stream? So I have streamed all of these. I've streamed all of these over on the Van Ryder Games YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed over there, you can go subscribe. I do stream Final Girl every other Wednesday, and we have a great time, but all of the streams are saved, so you can go watch them over there. And I've of course streamed here on Foster the Meeple as well. All right, so that was number 16. Let's move on to number 15. This one, I will say, the next two are a lot of people's absolute favorites. So don't come after me, please. Or do, I don't care. But the next one, my number 15, is Into the Void with the Evo Morph at the USS Conrad. Now, this one is primarily theme-based. This theme, aliens, space, I have never been a fan of, I've never been super into sci-fi stuff. And so with that, this is just not one that I reach for. The gameplay in this one is definitely more complex, but not in a way that I feel like makes it impossible. So I find the gameplay to be really interesting. Like I said, you're playing against the Evo Morph. That's the killer, and the Evo Morph comes in multiple different forms, and you're playing at the USS Conrad, which is a spaceship which has kind of like almost a variable location with like doors and pathways opening up and all of this stuff. But I would say of all of them, this is my least played one of all of them. I have, with the exception, of course, of Series 3, because I literally just got it. Of all of the first two series, this is my least played one. I never reach for it, and I know everybody loves this set. People freaking love this set. It was their most anticipated. It was their favorite one from Series 2, but for some reason, it just doesn't click with me, and I understand that the last two that I have talked about have been designed by Evan, and just know, Evan, I freaking love you, but this one, I find, I just don't, aliens, If they were cute, if it was about like E.T. aliens, I'd be sold. I'd be all in. But I'll still, just like all of them, I will still play it whenever I want to, but just maybe not one that I typically reach for. Number 14, another one that was like everybody's favorite. So in Series 2, there were two feature films that really stood out in terms of people like loving them, enjoying them, being excited for it, and they were my bottom two. And I can't help it. I'm sorry. However, before I first played this feature film, I hadn't watched a particular movie, and now I have, and it made me enjoy this feature film more, and I think that is key. But that is Panic at Station 1891. So in this set, we have the organism and we are at station 2891, and it is set in the winter, and basically you are having to test different victims to find out whether or not they are infected, because if they are infected, then we've got some disgusto barfo organisms that we need to deal with. And now, like I said, since watching that movie, I will never say what any movies are possibly, what feature films are possibly about, because everything is up to speculation. But I watched a particular movie which made me understand more. And one thing that I actually really like about this set, and I'm already thinking this might not even be in the right place, but it's fine because I really, really enjoyed the last few plays of it. But in order to save victims here, you actually have to get them to a helicopter, and then you have to fly the helicopter away. And I think that's a really cool mechanic. There's dogs in this, and that's awesome. And also, I really like having to test the victims and not knowing, because you could have to deal with like 3 gross organisms, or you might not have to deal with all 3. And so there's a lot of variety within this set that I really enjoy. So once again, I love all of them. And this one has grown on me significantly since the first time I did a ranking like this. But that is Panic at Station, I always have to look, 2891. The next one is my new nemesis. And you're going to notice a theme. If somebody I feel like is my nemesis, then they tend to rank a little bit lower. However, I'll just tell you and we'll talk about it, but this is a very fun set, and that is Killer from Tomorrow from Series 3. So in Killer from Tomorrow, we have the Hunter, and we are at the Sunny Days Mall. So the reason why this one has ranked a little bit lower, it's going to need more plays from me. This, in my opinion, is the most complex of all of the feature films. And, you know, that's once again subjective, because some people might find another one more complex than me and everything. But for some reason, I found this one the hardest to learn because there's just a lot going on, which means if there's a lot of extras, I tend to forget what I'm doing sometimes. But anyways, this is a very cool set. So it has the Hunter, which is, he's basically like a robot cyborg, and he comes in 2 forms. So you have to like tear down and break apart his first form, and then he comes into an even stronger form that you then have to kill. He doesn't target victims. He's going to target whoever his primary suspect is, and whether that is in this feature film, we'll just go with the feature film, that's the Savior, which is this really bratty little kid who you have to save before you can kill the killer, which is very, very fun. But this kid is the most annoying kid in the whole world. You will want him to die. You will not care about winning because he's the worst. But it's also hilarious. Like, this set I find is really funny. And then with the first version of the killer, you can actually grab the parts, put it back together, and turn him into an ally. So this set just introduces a lot of things. It introduces allies. There's 2 versions of a killer. You have to save a kid. There's also different levels within the Sunny Days Mall. So if you jump off a railing, you get damaged. There's just a lot to keep track of. And I'm more all about Cozy Final Girl. It's a thing. This is not Cozy Final Girl. I can definitely see this year, like how Evomorph and Organism, those sets were the most popular of Series 2. I can see this being one of the most popular ones of Series 3, which typically means that it's probably going to be lower on my list. But I really like it. I think it's super fun, but it's just really, really, there's just a lot to keep track of. So now we are on to number 12. And my number 12 was actually like kind of surprising to me, because I really I don't know, I love all of these, and trying to like organize them in a way that's a list is really hard, but I really like this set. But anyways, my number 12 is going to be Carnage at the Carnival. And some people are probably like, really? I know, like, I really do like this. Anyways, we have Geppetto, and we are at the Carnival of Blood. And the big thing with this one is minions, and that would be Geppetto's puppets. And the really cool thing about the puppets is that they're on strings. This is them on strings, and I am Geppetto. And so they can't go too far away from Geppetto. So they you know, it's kind of limited in their movement. And this was the first set that I think I played. Yes, it would have been, because this was series 1, that introduced minions. So that's pretty cool, like in and of itself. Now the Carnival of Blood itself, so like the location, doesn't really have anything like super crazy that's been added to it. The big thing in this set I really find is Geppetto. It's the killer. He's a really, really creepy killer. He's really cool. And I really enjoy this set, but like when comparing it to all of the others, I guess maybe just not as much. I don't know. I'm second guessing everything, but anyways, that is my number, whatever number this is, 12. It's really good though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've already made my rankings. It's fine. Number 11. Now this is the complexity thing. I'm telling you, I played this yesterday and I had a great time, but I felt the most hopeless that I think I've ever felt. And every time that I've played this feature film, that is how I have felt. I feel like it's impossible, but it must not be. But that is the Merrick Murders from Series 3. So it's interesting. We've had 2 from Series 1, 2 from Series 2, 2 from Series 3. That's funny. Anyways, in the Merrick Murders, we have the Tormentor as the killer, and we are at the Merrick Warehouse. This is another extremely complex set. Of all of the feature films, all 16, this one and Killer from Tomorrow, I would say, are the most difficult. They have a lot of like extra rules to kind of keep track of. But with that being said, this one I feel like is the hardest one to win. But it's so fun because anyways, the Tormentor doesn't even come onto the board until the finale card is revealed. And in this set, the biggest new thing are these death traps. So you and the victims are going to be shoved into these horrifying death traps that you then need to break out of. And you just need to survive until the finale card comes up and the Tormentor appears, and then you can finally kill her. The other big thing with this set is that there's locks on all of the doors, and you have to unlock a door before you can save victims. There's kind of a lot of moving parts, and if a victim gets trapped and they're like on the other side of the board from you, it's just really hard to get to them. And so horror is going to be very high in this set. So there's a lot of this. Every time I've played, I've had like 1 die to roll, which is one of my least favorite things. I like rolling a lot of dice. But anyways, I think the theme is very cool. It's a fun set. It's just really complicated. And so like if I'm streaming, this is probably something I'm more likely to gravitate towards because it's going to be a more entertaining stream. But if this list is just for me and what I want to play when I'm sitting down by myself to play Final Girl, I probably want something that I feel like I have at least a slight chance of winning. But this is very fun. And also, Cassie is one of the final girls, and she's a member of the Van Ryder Games Discord, and I think that's really cool. And I killed her in her last play, RIP. We are into the top 10. So my number 10 is The Haunting of Creech Manor. So this features the poltergeist at Creech Manor, and this set is another one that's really difficult to win. And what's really unique about this set is that you can't kill the poltergeist, obviously, because she's a freaking ghost. So you're not attacking her. And what you actually need to do is you need to rescue the little girl, Carolyn. Anyways, you have to rescue the little girl. So you have to get her, and then you need to get out of the house. You have to find her little bunny and all of this stuff. So it's a really unique set. I also really enjoy Creech Manor. I think Creech Manor is super cool because you're just kind of like in this house, and then there's randomly people can jump out a window and hurt themselves, and I think that's really fun. It's challenging, but it's so unique. I feel like this is definitely one of the most unique sets just in terms of the killer and how all of that works. So I really love it. I know this isn't everybody's favorite set, but for me, I think I enjoy a good ghost story, so I'm here for it. So that's my number 10. Number 9 is from Series 3, and this one is shocking to me because of all of the feature films in Series 3, this was the one that I was the least excited about, only because I hadn't watched certain movies and still haven't, and don't really know anything about this IP that it could have possibly been based on. But I played it and I had a freaking blast playing it. And that is going to be Hell to Pay. So Hell to Pay features Razorface as our killer, and we are at the Hellscape as the location. And this one has a really cool location. One thing that I'm like loving about Series 3 is the locations are all so cool. I think the locations like stand out maybe even more than the killers do in Series 3, which I think is awesome because location plays just as big of a part as the killers and the final girl, in my professional opinion. Anyways, the cool thing about the Hellscape is that it is an ever-changing map. So you actually have tiles, double-sided tiles, that are constantly shifting and flipping and swapping every round throughout the entire game. And that what made this game like a puzzle within Final Girl. And if anybody knows me, you know I friggin' love puzzly games. I love them so much. And so like I'm sitting here being like, well, if I do this and then, oh no. So it's really, really fun. I thought there was a really unique board. And then Razorface himself is a pretty like, I hate calling him basic, but he's a little bit more of a basic killer, except you now have to overcome all of these afflictions before you can kill him. So that is like enough of a twist that it makes him really interesting for me. And you get 3 afflictions, but you could get more. And there's all of these different things that you have to do. There's different things you have to do in order to overcome them and purge them before you can kill him. So you could be working towards game, you could have him down to 1 health, but if you haven't purged your afflictions, you can't kill him. And I thought that was really fun. And because it doesn't have such like a massive extra rule set, I found it really easy to kind of get right into and play, and I had a blast with this one. I thought this was really great. And this was Ryan's first Final Girl design. Crushed it. Freaking crushed it. Number 8. Number 8 is a festive film, and that is going to be The North Pole Nightmare. This one is all vibes. This is just vibes. I love Christmas. I love the holiday season. I was stoked when I heard that Krampus was going to be joining the killer party because Krampus is a familiar story and Mrs. Claus is a familiar character, and I just think that's really fun. I just think this set is extremely fun. It's not overly complicated. It's definitely challenging for sure, but it's just fun. Like Krampus is a really, like, look at him. He's so gross. What I really love about this one is the victims are elves, and the elves are like super annoying. They're like opening gifts that could be exploding and all of this stuff. I also think that Mrs. Claus is badass, and I feel like I play with her all the time. We also have Cindy the Elf, and she's really fun too, but you're literally in Santa's village, and you've got presents everywhere, and Krampus has his bad presents that you could open, and bad things can happen, and the elves are exploding things, and it's awesome. There's a Yeti. It's amazing. This game, this one is just fun. I think this might be the funnest of all of them. Just saying. All right, my number 7 is another one from Series 3. And this one, it wasn't my most anticipated of Series 3, but I think it was maybe like my second most because I love the artwork in this one. Like I think, is this my favorite of all of them? I think this is my favorite art of all of them, which is wild because it's the first time this artist did a feature film, and that is Don't Make a Sound. So Don't Make a Sound features the Eyeless, and we are at Utopia. The artist is Carrie L. Smith, okay? Carrie L. Smith. So, and she is a comic book artist, and you can kind of tell, like the vibes, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the way this looks. Anyways, this one is probably of all of the Series 3 ones, I would say this one and Hell to Pay are like the entry points for Series 3. Every series has a couple feature films that are a little bit like, I don't want to call any of them easy because literally none of them are easy to win. Nothing is easy to win. But in terms of like rule sets and additional rules to the base, This one in Razorface, I would say, has the fewest. But what I loved about this one is the sand snakes. So you are fighting against, there's so much going on in this, but you're fighting against the eyeless who can't see, so they have to focus on sound. So you have a noise tracker, and everything you do increases the noise. You play an action card, you increase the noise. You play a loud item, you increase the noise. And then through the tarot cards, that noise level might affect what's going on. So that's really cool. But the location, Utopia, has these sand snakes that are popping up. So every round you're going to be pulling some sand snake cards. They're going to be popping up through the ground like freaking daisies, and they're just going to kill somebody that's there. They're like, surprise! And then they go, and then they go back into the ground. You can't kill them. You can't like retaliate. I mean, you can, but you can't hit them. And I think that's really cool because they work. They're like minions, but they're not minions because you can't do anything about them. They're just like, hey, this is where we live and we're hungry, and so we're going to have a little snack. And we're going to pop up through the ground and we're going to eat somebody, so deal with it. And I think that's really fun. There's also sinkholes in this one, and so your map is actually going to be shrinking, which is really cool. I had a blast playing this. I think it's beautiful. I think it's fun. It's not overly complex. Like this is one. This is what I feel about Cozy Final Girl. This is a Cozy Final Girl for me. Cozy Final Girl, okay? All right, number 6. My top 6 were very difficult for me to do. Very difficult, but I don't know. I don't even know if these are in the right order, but let's go with it. So my number 6 is from Series 2, and that is going to be A Knock at the Door. Knock, knock, knock. In this, we have The Intruders, and we are at Wingard Cottage. This set is fun. It's tough, but it's fun because you're like at a cottage in the woods. Don't worry about it. We're here. We're having a great time. And suddenly 3 weirdos in masks start killing everybody. And it is what it is. I like the cottage because I think that the items are very cool. In the cottage, we can get a blender and we can blend a killer. Am I not going for the blender every time? You better believe I'm going for the blender every time. I really enjoy the set of like the sets that are more like a little bit more complex, like this one. I love that there's 3 different killers and they're going to activate in different ways. And I just think that's really cool because this is the first set that had multiple killers. We have minions in other sets, but this has 3 killers, and that's really unique. I love the theme. I love the vibes. I'm into like the artwork of everything, and I just have a great time every time that I play this one. I also, in a stream for Van Ryder, I had the organism at Wingard Cottage, and that was really funny. God, I love mixing and matching these. Anyways, that is my number 6. All right. Top 5, and we have feature films from every series in the top 5, which is great. So, and this ranking is obviously going to change probably as I play Series 3 more, but it's the newest, so I've had the least experience with it. But with that being said, my number 5 is the Falconwood Files from Series 3. This was my most anticipated. This was my most anticipated of Series 3 because this theme I love. Whatever this may have been based off of, the point is I have watched a particular show probably 5 times over because I love it. I love it so much. And I think it may have inspired this feature film. Who's to say? Not me. Anyways, in this feature film, we have the Slayer, and we are at Falconwood. We're in Falconwood. And what I love about this, number 1, so many things, but number 1, just like look at it. Just look at it. Would you look at that? Just look at it. It's so colorful. It's Vincent Dutrait art, so it's 10 out of 10. It's beautiful. It's colorful. And this set, to me, this is fun. This is so much fun. But in this feature film, basically, you have to complete a mission before you can kill the killer. So you're going to choose a random mission at the beginning, and it's going to change how things are set up. And the missions are like puzzles. There's so much puzzling going on in Series 3 that I absolutely freaking love. And so you have to complete your mission before you can kill the killer. So that's super fun. And then when you complete a mission, you get a friend. And friends are a new type of character in Final Girl. Like kind of act like special victims, but they're better than special victims, okay? There's stuff that makes them better, and they're really helpful. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the Slayer lives in a mirror dimension, and they are pulling victims into the mirror dimension, and they can only kill victims in the mirror dimension. And so you are trying to work between your dimension and the mirror dimension because you can't kill the killer unless you're in the mirror dimension. So you have to jump through them by creating rifts, and you're pulling people up and down, and it's amazing. This set is so good. This one, maybe for me, it's probably like 60% theme for me, that I love this so much, but I really enjoy the missions, and I think the mirror dimension is very cool, and I'm enjoying the Slayer as well. So that's my number 5. Actually, the last 2 that I mentioned are both by Mike Martins, fellow Canadian. Shout out to Mike. I love them. All right, my number 4 is from Series 2, and this one for me is also like, the theme is 10 out of 10. I freaking love this theme. I love this set so much. And that is Madness in the Dark. In Madness in the Dark, we got my girl, the Ratchet Lady. She is so ratchet, and we are at the Wolf Asylum. And there's so many things I love about this set. The theme is obviously one of them. I think the Ratchet Lady, she is wild. She's at the Wolf Asylum for a reason. And some of the things I love about this is that some of the victims now become maniacs, and they turn against you and act as minions. So that is kind of like in flux throughout the game, which I think is really cool. I also love that there are random just pills. There's pills on the floor, and you're going to pick them up, and you're probably going to eat them just to see what happens. And that's another thing that I think is really interesting about this, because by eating different color combinations of the pills that you find, it's going to allow you to do different types of things, but then you may also get some side effects which are not good. So it's a little bit of a balance. I just think like the victims turning against you is a really theme perfect concept for this feature film, and I love the vibes of this because it's very like, the sepia tones, and you're at the asylum, and like freaking Ratchet Lady and all of her minions. It's so good. I love this set. I really love this set so much. That's my number 4. So my top 3, I think might have been my top 3 the last time that I did this, but things have been rearranged a little bit because I've recently, once again, this past year, I played everything again. And so this has just changed slightly. But my top 3, I had to sit here and I was rearranging them like a billion times because I could not decide. But my number 3 is going to be Once Upon a Moon. Now Once Upon a Full Moon. This was my number 1 last time I did this, and I almost put it back at number 1. So that's like the top 3 are very interchangeable. They're almost equally tied. This one, once again, this is Cozy Final Girl. This is all vibes, all theme. I love fairy tales. I love werewolves. Love them. And this is probably like, of all of them, this is the coziest of all the Final Girl games. Like, if I'm sitting down to play a Final Girl game by myself and I'm not streaming, 90%, I'm probably picking this one because I love it so much. So we, of course, have the Big Bad Wolf, and we are at Storybook Woods. It has a lot of references to fairy tale-like things, which I think is really fun and adorable. And this one doesn't have a complex rule set. It's like, of Series 2, this was the intro to Series 2, basically, in the same way that Camp Happy Trails is the intro to Series 1. But I love it. I love that. I love the intros to the series. I love the cozy versions and just being able to sit down and play Final Girl. I love Final Girl. And this to me is a very I'm playing Final Girl when I play this, but I'm also living in a fairy tale. And I love it so much. And I know that while most people want to play something like Into the Void with the Evomorph, you go ahead. Me and the Big Bad Wolf, we're going to have a time together. Okay? And I haven't played Grandma's Grudge yet, and I'm very excited to do it. I love it. Love it. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. My number 2 once again, I think these three are all interchangeable, but my number 2, after playing it again, I'm just like, man, this is just fun. This set is just super fun. And that is going to be Nightmare on Maple Lane with my boy, Dr. Fright. And is he a doctor? Yes, he is. I don't know where he got his PhD, but he's a doctor. And then we're on Maple Lane. This one is, like, I love that you have, like, a sleep and awake. I think that is amazing, and that you can only kill a killer when you're asleep, and he can only attack you when you're asleep because he's living in your dreams. But what makes this one so unique is that whole broiler room aspect. So you have like a stack of cards, and then you kind of have to like slide them out to see if Dr. Fright is going to be like peekaboo and peek out at you. And that's like a really cool and weird mechanic. It's a weird mechanic, but it's one that I think really works and that I love. But the whole like going in between being asleep and being awake, I really enjoy any of the sets that are set in like a basic place. I love Maple Lane. I love the Wingard Cottage. Not that Wingard Cottage is like a basic place, but like, I mean, in real life, it's a cottage. It's a cute neighborhood. It's a storybook forest. It's like, I like those locations because I think they're very cute. Anyways, this has been one of my favorites since the very beginning. And I just think Dr. Fright is freaky deaky, but I love him. So by deduction, you now know what my favorite feature film is. And this is one that I didn't put as my number 1 last time, and I almost did, but I just think Camp Happy Trails is the ultimate final girl game. This is what started it all. Even though this came with 4 other feature films, this is Final Girl. Camp Happy Trails is Final Girl. If I want to introduce anybody to Final Girl, this is what I am giving them. It has just the base rules. You have your freaking iconic killer, Hans the Butcher, and you are at Camp Happy Trails. What is this one actually? The Happy Trails Horror. I always just call it Camp Happy Trails. Happy Trails Horror. There is no other feature film, no other whatever, that makes me think Final Girl more than this. Because if you think Final Girl horror movie, this is what you're thinking of, I assume. You're thinking of you're at camp and there's a crazy masked killer going around chopping up teenagers. That is Final Girl. This is not complex, but still very difficult. So it's got like the perfect amount of rules versus challenge for me. And of all of them, if I'm just like, oh, I just feel like playing Final Girl, I'll probably just grab this one. When I introduced it to Jeff, I grabbed this one. I love everything about this. This to me is the perfect Final Girl game. It's perfect and I love it. And I feel like of everything, if people really look deep inside of them, most people would probably agree that this is the best Final Girl because this is Final Girl. This is it. And I love it. And that is my number 1. Okay. Whew, that was my ranking. And now if you're curious, I said I was going to do this, but now I'm like, meh. All right. I think if I'm ranking the 3 series, this is nearly impossible for me to do. I think I would put series 2 at the bottom? That can't be right. Because I have, let's look, I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 in my top 10 from series 2. But that can't be right. Anyways, this is impossible, but I'm just throwing this out there. I'm going to say series 2 is number 3. And I'm going to say series 3 is number 2 and series 1 is number 1. And that doesn't make any sense, but that's what my heart told me to do. I just think if you're wondering, this is where you start. I still believe that. I think series 1 is the best entry point. I think that the way that they were released is the perfect way to get them. Series 1, the best entry point. Series 2 has got a little bit more meat in it, and series 3 has got a lot more meat in it. And so, anyways, you freaking can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. You can't go wrong, Final Girl. Unbiased opinion from my favorite game of all time. But my friends, that is my ranking. I would love to know in the description below, what is your favorite Final Girl feature film? I have a feeling I'm going to get a lot of Evomorph, Organism, all of that stuff, but I just think that it's amazing that there is literally a feature film for everyone, no matter your skill level, no matter if you enjoy horror or not. So if you're not like huge into horror, you could play this one. No matter what you like. Do you like sci-fi? Cool, we got you covered. Do you like Christmas? Amazing. Don't worry about it. Do you like something really dark and scary? Awesome. Do you like something where there's a really annoying kid? Well, then you should probably get this one. Just saying. Anyways, that is everything that I have. Let me know your favorite down below. If you're interested in buying board games like Final Girl, I, as always, recommend that you go to your friendly local gaming store. Series 3 is currently being fulfilled to backers. Once that is done, you will be able to find it at your friendly local gaming store. The Van Ryder Games website, I think, has their pre-orders up, so feel free to go and do that. But for me, my friendly local gaming store is the Boardroom Game Cafe. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. I hope to see you again soon. And now, I say goodbye. Goodbye! I'm sorry that I put you at the bottom. I don't think I meant it. I don't think that you deserve to be at the bottom. I think you're amazing. Boop. Are you good? What's this scared of? Juno's scared of something. I don't know what she's freaking scared of. What are you scared of? There. That better? What's like a freaking thumbnail? Do you even have my eyeball camera? No, it's focused on Razorface. It's focused on Razorface. That's rude. Hello. Thank you. Like curtains. What, the curtains? No, not the curtains. We can leave this one in the shot. Juno's laying behind me. She is having a freak today. Don't ask me why. She is just, it just is. All right, so in this we have the strangers. In this we have the intruders. Now I gotta pack everything back in the boxes. Juno, why are you so sad and scared?